I'm not the first, nor will I probably be the last person to make a video about Super Mario Bros. 2. I'll try not to bore you with the obvious, and I don't have anything mind-blowing to tell you, so I'll try to give you the history of the game very briefly. In 1986, Nintendo released Super Mario Bros. 2, known as Lost Levels in the Western world, in Japan, but Nintendo didn't want to release it in the US because it was so difficult. In 1988, they made Super Mario Bros. 3, and so they took a Japanese game called Doki Doki Panic, which was made to market some anime series, I guess, and changed the characters to Mario characters, made some tweaks to the graphics, music, and released it as the new Mario game. Now, a lot of Mario fans dislike this game because it's so different from the rest of the series, but I have to say, that's the reason why I like this game. The novel gameplay is what makes it stand out, even if it is probably the game least identified with Mario. I mean, the symbol for this game is a frickin' turnip. But still, it's a quality title. Now, I will admit the game is really challenging. I would say even more challenging than SMB3, because remember, in that game you can skip most of the difficult parts. In SMB2, beyond finding the odd one-up mushroom, the only way to earn extra lives is in the slot machine minigame that you can play at the end of the stage if you collected coins during the level. Now, Lost Levels allowed you to play as Luigi, but this game upped the stakes by allowing you to play as Toad and Peach, still called Princess Toadstool at the time of the game's release. A lot of people don't really like Toad, but Peach is definitely helpful with her levitation power, which can be used to skip certain parts of the level. Also, it's not like this game had nothing to do with the Mario series. It was actually made by Shigeru Miyamoto, whereas Lost Levels was actually done by a different development team altogether. As you can probably tell, I'm glad they didn't release Lost Levels back in the day, because otherwise this game would have just been another Japanese exclusive that would never see the light of day outside its home country. And you have to admit that the graphics and music are pretty darn good. I mean, everyone recognizes the main theme from this game. Also, Super Mario Bros. 2 has contributed a lot more to the Mario franchise than Lost Levels. Now let's be perfectly honest, Lost Levels was really nothing more than a graphic update of Super Mario Bros., with some new levels and 2 new enemies, the Poisonous Mushroom and the Flying Blooper. We've seen characters from Super Mario Bros. 2 make reappearances in other Mario games. The Bob-ombs appeared already in Super Mario Bros. 3, Pokey the Cactus made his return in Super Mario World, the Shy Guys were the prominent baddies in Yoshi's Island, and finally there's Birdo, the egg-spitting dinosaur who reappeared in Super Mario RPG and went on to greater things. Now, as you probably know, Super Mario Bros. 2 was re-released later on as an enhanced remake called Super Mario Advance for the GBA, and Nintendo added certain things to make the game easier. But I have to tell you, there's one good reason why I never liked this part of the game. The voice acting. It just doesn't fit a pre-N64 Mario game. They should have just re-released the Super Mario All-Stars version for the Game Boy Advance. Now, like a lot of other people, I was not very enthusiastic about this game when it came out. The only noteworthy thing about it at the time seemed to be that after the horrendous Mario is missing, Luigi finally got to star in a good game. It's painfully obvious that this game is a product of its time. The early 2000s were the start of a new horror craze. Survival horror, FPS games with horror themes, and of course horror movies were all the craze. So it was natural that Nintendo also hopped on the survival horror bandwagon. Though this game probably has more to do with Ghostbusters than Resident Evil. Now, believe it or not, I actually like this game. In fact, I actually think it's better than Super Mario Sunshine. Again, it's a game with a novel gameplay concept that just gets overlooked a lot. But it's simple and fun, and you can just jump in and play. That's the beauty of it. Now, you may think a haunted mansion would limit the game's variety, but you'd be wrong. The various ghosts you get to take out are pretty neat, and the cartoony designs at least make sure that the game doesn't look dull. Yeah, I know that a lot of people hate Luigi's whimpering, and some don't like Professor Egad's Hamu Samu Masu talk. But hey, those things come with the territory. I mean, has there been a Mario game you weren't at least a little embarrassed about since Super Mario 64? It was cool when Mario talked for the first time, but you listen to it now, doesn't it sound a hella cheesy? Well, If you could stand Charles Martinez screaming like a plumber on mushrooms in every other Mario game, what's the big deal with Luigi? Now sure, there are a lot of cockamamie concepts in this game, like catching ghosts with a vacuum cleaner and turning them into paintings, but I can't emphasize enough that the game is just fun to play. And also, the amount of cash you collect also affects the ending, mainly what sort of mansion you get at the end. Kinda like in Wario Land, and remember, I like that game. And if you thought Mario was greedy, at least he didn't use a vacuum cleaner. And Luigi doesn't just suck up coins, but bills, pearls, and diamonds. Now the gameplay may appear simple, but the game does offer challenges. Often there's a trick to catching the ghosts. What I love is the Game Boy horror. Yeah, kinda like Game Boy Color. Isn't that hilarious? Well, anyway, this thing works as a map, a communicator, not to mention as a scanning device that helps you figure out the ghost's weaknesses. Or you can just shoot it around and see what Luigi has to say about the mansion itself. Also, there's just so much to do. Aside catching ghosts, you can pretty much go through every cupboard, closet, fridge, piano, and door in the entire mansion and find all kinds of crazy stuff. The music is pretty nice too, though usually you'll just hear some variant of the main theme. But hey, even Luigi starts humming it every once in a while. And you have to admit, while this game gives off the image of Luigi as a total coward, he still goes out of his way just to save his brother, proving perhaps definitely that he's just as much of an adventurer as Mario, even if he is constantly fighting the instinct to crap all over his overalls.